I don't know why it muted me on Amazon.com right now, but I'm so happy that you guys are hanging out with me. My crew, that's what you guys are. Some people call fans or whatever. If you're a part of this show and you're helping this show grow by hitting the like button, the subscribe button, all that kind of stuff, then you are part of the crew. You are not a fan. You're not outside of this show. You are part of this show. Without you, this show doesn't go. So thank you so much for hanging out with me. Do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. If you're watching on the X machine, retweet it on or re-exit, or I still don't know what the hell to call it. Just repost it on X for a larger sample size. On Facebook, if there's anybody there, what's up, Boomer? And on my Rumble crew, you guys as well, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell as well. We actually get some pretty decent views on Rumble compared to how big we are. But I am so happy that you are here tonight. We have much to discuss, like every night. We're going to talk IVF again, not Ashley St. Clair. We're done with that. And I have a little bit of stuff that the Conservative Inc. response was just what I thought it was. It was pathetic. It was weak. It was a lot of, well, she's, we're friendly and she's done a lot for the movement. Get out of here. And so it's just, I'll talk about that in a moment, because President Trump has done something with IVF that I'm not a big fan of. And Catholic Inc., not Conning, Catholic Inc. I'm talking Taylor Marshall, Posivic, all those guys. Silencio. Not a word. We'll talk about that. We're also going to talk about Barron Trump in a hot take. The ladies love Barron Trump, but Barron Trump is too much of a Sigma for the college girls, and they just can't handle it. Then we're going to get into our 4 stories. Trump is trying to get Chinese farmland here in the U.S. banned, gone away. Good. It needs to happen. There's way too much land that's owned in these United States by the CCP. It just needs to go. I don't care if it's whatever unconstitutional. Buy the land, kick them off the land and take it back. Give them a check and send them on their way, right? We have all this money saved from USAID. Kick them off, give them a check and tell them to go on their way and get them out of here. Then we're going to talk about, I always like to try and do 4 quarters. I don't like to do all politics or anything like that. So I'm going to do a quick story on airline stock. You have Delta and Southwest. The stock is dropping on both of those. They're laying off employees, all part of that plan. I'm trying to get you ahead of the curve on this one. Airline travel will be different 2 years from now. It will not be as accessible as it is now, however you want to say it, because it just won't be there. It's just not going to be the case. And so we need to take a look at what's the things that are lining up ahead of time on that. Then we're going to talk about Trevor Noah, the most unfunny man. Well, there's a lot of unfunny guys, but the most unfunny immigrant out there, wants segregation. The guy from South Africa, who apparently was apartheid and all that stuff, wants it back. They just want it back. Saying the quiet part out loud that we all know. I have thoughts on that. We'll get to it. And then finally, for the non-Catholics, I kept this story to the end unless there's some kind of breaking news on it. And that is the health of the Holy Father, Pope Francis. I actually have I have a news feed right now dedicated to just Pope Francis. I'm actually doing it right now. I want to keep that up and out there in case anything were to happen while we're watching, or while you're watching the show. So the Holy Father has pneumonia, and it's in both lungs, and it's, for a man of his age, it's not great. So we need to pray as Catholics for the Holy Father, regardless of your feelings of him. I know him not doing well is kind of bringing out a lot of problems, or maybe a lot of second guessing on a lot of, maybe not, maybe there isn't a lot of second guessing on some Catholic YouTube accounts who literally have made their name bashing the Holy Father for 4 years. So hopefully, we can all pray for him that as we all should be. This is not me saying it. He should be preparing in case things go for the worse. Like we all want, as Catholics, we all want a holy death and a blessed eternity. And I pray for that as much for Pope Francis as any other person that I care deeply about. So we'll talk about that towards the end. Unless something breaks, then we'll get into it as well. but it doesn't look like, it looks like everything right now is pretty much the same as far as the initial prognosis. So we are going to get into all of that, and I am so happy that you guys are here with me, my crew, as the thespian Dominic, or as the great character actor Dominic Toretto, played by the one and only Vincent Diesel, which is not his name. I don't got fans, I got family. But you're not family, you're my crew. That's a little different. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I will shut up because I beat that talking point to death. First story up of the day. Let's get to this. It's a little odd story. I think it's funny, but we won't spend too long on it. So first story of the day. Poor girl. Just poor girl. I mean, I feel bad for her. She's what? She's this 19-year-old girl, this 21-year-old Republican girl. She's trying to make her way. And she said a comment the other day that Barron Trump isn't a part of the college Republicans on campus because he's an oddity, because he goes to class and then he goes home. And apparently people thought this was like the biggest insult to Barron Trump. Oh my gosh. How could you call him an oddity? He's the president's kid. He's also like 7,000 feet tall. You know, he's his own little dude, and not little. He's his own dude, and he doesn't have to be a part of the college Republicans or any of that other kind of stuff. But the fact they drove this girl off, you know, if Barron was a little older, he would probably come out and be like, just stay. It's not a big deal. Just stay. I'm a little bit of an odd duck. Don't worry about it. But the fact that people are losing their mind and trying to cancel it, the kid probably doesn't even know what's going on. But this poor girl, she's going to be a liberal in like 3 years because she got run off of. Yeah, that's right. He is the Lisa Al-Gaib of Catholics, as he will be our future emperor. But don't run this poor girl off. You know, it's so bad. What probably was the Trump sycophants like Cat Turd and all these other people blasting. Oh, you can't say this about Barron. Shut up. Just let the kid be. All right. Yeah, he's his own man. He's a single. He's an only child. Only children, while brilliant. And yes, he has brothers and sisters and stuff, but within the family dynamic, you know, the birth order, if you believe in all that kind of stuff, he's an only child. Right? He's been raised by his mom. He's been around his dad. He's been around politics and all these other kinds of things. So he has his own way of doing things. And guess what? That's fine. And it's okay for people to be like, yeah, it's a bit odd. You know how many people have called me odd? I mean, I'm 5'6" and nothing, but who cares? I'm not Trump's kid. But people are all odd. And somebody probably asked her this question. And she was like, yeah, he's a bit odd. Yeah, that's right. His dad's probably like, don't get involved with the college girls. Stay away. I'll find you a princess from Spain or something. Don't worry about it. It's okay. And so I just want to put my 2 cents in on this because I think it's stupid. It's cancel culture and I hate it. Like, people should be able to say stuff. Aren't we supposed to be like the party of free speech and all this other kind of stuff? Yada, yada, yada. No, can't say anything because if you dare insult the Trumps, the sycophantic masses come running after you and making your life miserable. So that's the first hot take I have. Here's the second hot take. This is a little bit more. We're going to spend a couple more minutes on this one because this is absolutely devastating, especially when you have Carolyn Levitt, nice young lady, beautiful. She's a beautiful mom with a beautiful dog, child, and, you know, pro-life this and pro-life that and all these other kinds of things. She's out there supporting this. And, you know, Trump just signed an executive order for IVF. And it's actually not great. I'm sorry, I'm going to actually have to do this. I know I should have prepped for it. But the idea being that this was one of his promises made, promises kept types of things, that it's not a pro-life thing. It's not a great thing to do. And of course, people, and this kind of goes into that big tent thing that we were talking about earlier, that we'll get into, the idea that we have to make sure everybody is accepting, or we have to do all these stupid promises or whatever the case you want to call them. But it's not good. It's not a good thing. Let me give you the setup. So this just came out this afternoon. Promise kept, quote unquote. And I think I'm on the wrong side of the screen. Get me back up here. Trump signs executive order to aggressively make IVF more affordable and accessible. Now, there's nothing And we went over this yesterday with the Ashley St. Clair topic. It's bad, right? Michael Thomas, once again, for every one baby that's created via IVF, 10 are discarded. And if you're a Catholic like I am, you believe life begins at conception, and all these eggs that are fertilized, guess what? Those have souls. And when you dump them in the garbage or you freeze them for eternity or whatever the case may be, that's all bad news. And, you know, I'll say this out. Taylor Marshall just had a very nice video where he prayed a rosary for the Pope's health and for his soul, and very nice, but he's getting ratioed because guess what? Hasn't said a thing about IVF. Jack Posobiec hasn't said a thing about IVF. Nothing. Because they don't want to lose that Trump money. And so where are your principles in that case? Well, I guess it's with the big guy.
I've just finished signing some executive orders, and if we could start with that, Will, you might want to come up here and just explain what we did. Thank you.
Good afternoon, y'all. A short while ago, President Trump signed three items. The first is an executive order relating to the affordability and availability of in vitro fertilization and other fertility treatments. These are treatments that have become unaffordable for many Americans, or have been unaffordable for many Americans. And the executive order is a directive to the Domestic Policy Council to examine ways to make IVF and other fertility.
This is not the job of the executive. This is not the job of the executive. The executive has no place talking about IVF or trying to make it more affordable or whatever the case may be, especially one who is supposedly so pro-life, the most pro-life president ever, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I get the SCOTUS in the first term. We're in a different term now here, folks. And now he is streamlining and making more available a procedure that kills more babies than it creates. It's that simple in every single case. Now, Lily Rose has come out strongly saying no. Catholics all over Twitter have absolutely bombarded Caroline Leavitt's announcement where she's like, promises made, promises kept. They're like, you're Catholic. What are you doing? Now, I get it. She works for the guy, but don't celebrate it. I mean, she's in a tough position, but still, it's something that she's going to have to answer for, or anybody else who uses IVF is going to have to answer for. It is not the right way to do things.
Treatments more affordable for more Americans. The second item that we signed was a presidential memorandum imposing radical transparency requirements on government departments and agencies, in keeping with President Trump and the administration's broader commitment to governmental transparency.
Oh, do you care about any of this?
Presidential memorandum would do is require
I said be quiet. So that's terrible, especially coming off the heels of the silence that conservative media did yesterday when it came to Ashley St. Clair. And I'll call out Tim Cass. I'll probably never be on his show, so I ain't worried about that. But the idea is he started off his show. He's like, well, we know Ashley St. Clair, and she's a friend of the show, and she's been a good member of the movement. How? How has she been a good member of the MAGA movement? She put on a tight shirt and a MAGA hat. That's it. She got thirsty boys to vote for Trump. I guess that's helpful. And that's the whole thing. And something I learned today is that pretty much everybody in conservative media knew this. They knew for about 5 months, ever since it happened, that Ashley St. Clair was pregnant with Elon's baby. And they all knew about it. Crowder's like, I at least respect Crowder. He's like, I know about this. I can't tell you, but if you know where I stand, then you know my opinion on it, but I can't speak on it. At least he did that. Tim tried to, in classic fence posting, milk toast fence sitting fashion, tried to walk the line. Either you do or you don't. And then you had Phil Labonte, he's not a Catholic, he's a conservative, but all these people trying to argue, we got to have the big tent. We got to have the big tent, guys. We got to have the big tent. And this IVF promises for the people in the big tent. At what point is the tent so big that it doesn't matter? At what point does the tent become so big? What are we standing for? Are we going to turn, what we're going to turn into in this quote unquote conservative movement? We're essentially there now because they got rid of the pro-life and the pro-gun planks within the conservative or the GOP platform. We're going to turn into the fiscally conservative, socially liberal party, which is What are you conserving? Oh, wait, good. We're conserving tax cuts. Yay! As the guy said yesterday, we can't even stand on the platform of don't kill babies because IVF kills babies. So you can't even stand on that anymore, which is why they got rid of the plank of the GOP platform. And now the last one is don't let men play in women's sports. You're about 10 years away from them being like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. So awful. I will stand right now. This was a terrible call by the Trump administration. An absolutely terrible call. Doesn't matter if people have to do all these other things. If you are not able to have kids, that's God's providence. It's God's providence whether you have kids or not. Your job is to get married, perform the marital act, and leave it into God's hands. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Some people are blessed with 10 kids. Some people don't have any. That's just how it works. You are not entitled to a child. And IVF enables child trafficking. I'll say it again. IVF enables child trafficking. 100%, because it allows Pete Buttigieg and Dave Rubin and other sodomite couples to quote unquote have children. And every time I see that, it makes me so angry. They don't deserve a children. So forget it. I can't stand with him on this one. I absolutely am one of the few in media, at least, which will say Trump bad, Trump real bad on this one. And I can't, and people be like, well, don't let you'll have some Catholics that'll say, don't let the enemy perfect be enemy of the good. This is a pretty big blanking, I don't want to curse, but this is a pretty big blanking enemy of the good. Murdering babies. Oh, we're creating them. As we said before, for one, what they do is they take the eggs, they take the sperm, they put them in a petri dish, they put it together, and the ones that rank the highest is term of viability, and it's only like 30%, by the way. Those are the ones that get implanted. The rest of them get tossed. The rest of them get tossed like trash. I don't want to spend the whole show on it. If you watched my clip on Ashley St. Clair and Elon Musk last night, this is just a revert of that. But it's once again, Conservative Inc. silent. Catholic Inc. silent. Too afraid because they don't want to be disinvited from Mar-a-Lago. And if that's your goal in life, congratulations, you got it. But guess what? If you're a Catholic, you believe in the 4 final things: death, judgment, heaven, and hell. And when that happens, you are going to be called to answer why you didn't stand up for those babies. I've done a lot of crappy things in my life. And people say, oh, you're such a good Catholic, Rick. Believe me, I'm not. I'm probably the worst Catholic on this stream. People watching or whatever, I'm probably the worst one here. There's a lot of stuff I'm going to have to answer for when my time comes. One of them will not be standing idly by and not saying anything while the conservative movement that supposedly represents me teeters farther and farther to the left. Farther and farther to the left, and nobody's saying anything about it. So I'm a 2-issue voter. I know some people say don't be 2-issue voter. Pro-life, pro-gun. Those are my 2 issues. Outside, which ironically enough, the GOP has gotten rid of, but hey, whatever. Everything else can be debated and talked about. Oh, taxes and foreign, blah, 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 and all these other kind of nonsensical things. And so far, Trump has failed in this term. He still hasn't put a director of the ATF in. Yeah, he did the pro-gun thing, but that's just rolling back some executive orders. Anyway, I'll shut up. Oh, my goodness, folks. Not happy about this. Bad day. Bad day when it comes to this kind of stuff. But we soldier on here on Rickcast. By the way, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. If you support a program that is not afraid to call out Trump, that is not afraid to call out conservative media, I'm your guy. I need your support in order to continue to grow this program so we can say, hey, you know what? Trump didn't do a good thing here. Hey, Jack Bosebik, why aren't you saying anything? Hey, all you other supposed Catholics, the Catholics in the administration, where's JD Vance? Exactly. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our first story of the day. So I actually it's already 30 minutes into the show. We haven't hit our first story yet. So let's get to it. First story of the day is not that. It is, what are you doing here? Let me end that screen. I think I did something wrong. I got so fired up. I don't even know what I'm doing right now, folks. I'm going nuts. Here we go. First story of the day from Breitbart.com. Exclusive from Secretary Rollins, USDA exploring federal solution to stopping China from purchasing U.S. farmland. U.S. Department of Agriculture, the Secretary Brooke Rollins told Breitbart News exclusively on Friday that President Trump and his administration is exploring ways for the federal government to stop China from purchasing American farmland. Rollins, in her first non-trade publication, exclusive print interview, whatever, said that no doubt people are concerned about this and rightly want American farmlands to be owned by Americans, not foreigners, especially those loyal to the CCP. When I talk about Chinese farmland, I'm talking about that, folks. I'm sure you have, if you haven't seen this map, this is all this. I don't even know how accurate this map is. It could be outdated at this point. This is the amount of farmland that the Chinese own in this union. That's a lot. There's a lot of farmland out there in California, which California is pretty much China anyway. Arizona, you've got all the four corner states. You got a lot. Notice one thing that's generally concerning is the amount of land that is owned. Fort Liberty, yeah, this is kind of old. Fort Bragg, but the amount of land that is owned near military bases. I mean, if anything else, this should be yanked away on a matter of national security because this is unacceptable. The Chinese will not let you buy. Hey, Mr. Chinese person, can I buy some farmland right next to your Air Force base? Oh yeah, you buy land right here. No, nobody's going to do that. You're not going to go to, Russia. Hey, Ruskies, can I buy some farmland next to you? Yeah, you buy land here. No, you don't do that. We're the only ones stupid enough to do it. And guess what? Call it an act of national security. What is it? Pull out eminent domain, kick them out, give them the baseline amount for it, and send them on their way. There's no reason to have the Chinese have this much. They should not have any land here. What about Forget capitalism. Forget it. Kick them out. Get them out of here. They should not own this much property in these United States, and they shouldn't own this much property near military bases. That's just the cherry on top. That is just the absolute cherry on top when you think about, we talk about national security and all this other kinds of, look at Hawaii. Look how much the Chinese own. They pretty much own the entire, they own an entire island in Hawaii, right? Where's Tulsi Gabbard with that one? And then, of course, here in Texas, they got a bunch of it near Fort Hood, not Cavazos. And then up here near the DFW area, Oklahoma, bunch. All this stuff. Notice how they don't care about like Minnesota. Yeah, nobody cares about Minnesota, right? Anyway, so that's our first story of the day. We're not really getting much into it. The whole point is Trump is looking to find a way to get it. So Trump good on this one. Trump bad on IVF. Bad Trump. Trump good on this one. Call eminent domain, give him money, kick him out. That's it. Just get done. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is a rock star in Arkansas for doing stuff like that. I think she's fantastic. I don't like many women in politics, right? You can call me a misogynist, guilty, but Sarah Huckabee Sanders is actually legitimately pretty good. It's sad she'll probably be a one-term governor and then like throw her name into the race in 2028. But I think she's doing great. And I think more governors. Where's Greg Abbott? Oh, that's right. He's too busy, rolling around with Elon Musk or trying to do more stupid things. We need to get rid of this. And if Trump can't do it at the federal level, then the states need to turn into their own little countries again and enact some kind of law that says, hey, by the way, Chinese people can't, the Chinese party cannot own, or anybody that is associated or anybody that's associated with the CCP cannot own land in China. Sorry. I mean, land here in these United States if it's connected back to China. Sorry. That's it. Can't do anything else. You cannot sell this land. You cannot. It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's our first story of the day. Very quick, but it's also very good to see, at least in this portion, this is something that needs to be done. We need to get rid of this. This needs to end right now. All right, folks, this is Rickcast. I'm the aforementioned Rick, my bar rats. I'm so glad you guys are hanging out with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell so this show can grow. We're only growing because of you, my crew. And thank you. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Should it be a state? That's right, MDD2299 on a Rumble. Only U.S. citizens should be allowed to own property. I'll go one step closer. You don't like this? Too bad. If you are a Chinese U.S. citizen, but you have ties back to the CCP, can't own it. Sorry. But nothing. But nothing. If you have any connections back to the CCP, even if it's your daddy, your cousin, can't do it. It's just, if you're a Chinese American and you don't have any connections back to the CCP, I don't care if you own 100 acres. But if you're a Chinese American who has ties back to the CCP, no land for you, right? We'll turn to the soup Nazi. No land for you. Or the land Nazi. Oh, no, I said Nazi, so the show is going to get demonetized. I don't care because I got you guys hanging out with me. But that is something that needs to take place. All right, ladies. Now, hopefully, we will see this actually come to fruition where these people are getting kicked out. The land is bought back. I'm not a big fan of federal control, but if it's the CCP or the federal government, I'll take the federal government in this case, doing this and booting them back to China and letting U.S. citizens and U.S. citizens that have, some skin in the game and have no allegiances to other countries. That's another country I'm talking about. Shouldn't have, if you're a dual citizen to that country, you shouldn't be allowed. If you're a dual citizen to any country and your allegiances are not to this union, to your state, you shouldn't be allowed to own land. It's that simple. It's that simple. Let that land be bought by Americans. I know it's a crazy time. It's a crazy thought. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get to our second story of the day. Like I said, I like to keep this show as 4-quadrant as possible, as far as making sure that we don't get stuck in one lane. And so we're going to talk about this. We talked about the Delta airline crash yesterday. There's footage that's come out that shows that the flight just came in really hard, broke one of the rear wheels, and then the thing just, it rolled. Why did it come in so hard? Maybe it was pilot error, but that's how it ended up that way. Some pretty clear footage showing the plane hitting the ground, kind of hit at a weird angle. I believe it was the right side wheels just collapsed or broke off, and then it just rolled. But we're seeing this impact from what happened in Washington, and then all the other coverage now, the intense coverage by the legacy media on incidences that are happening at airports, and trying to connect that back to Trump and trying to blame Trump for this, for his ideas or his firing, or trying to make it merit-based instead of DEI-based and all these other things. A lot of focus on the airline industry right now. And of course, that's going to have a negative outcome. So from Schaefer's investment research, 2 airline stocks in focus, Delta and Southwest. So Delta is in focus after the highly publicized Toronto crash on Monday, which a flight from Minneapolis operated by Character's regional jet subsidy and Denver Air flipped upside down at the Toronto Pearson International Airport. All 80 passengers and crew members were accounted for after the evacuation, with those hurt reportedly only sustaining minor injuries. I mean, it is a miracle that nobody died, right? It's an absolute miracle. Thanks be to God that nobody died in this crash. We saw it yesterday. At a glance, Delta's was down 0.04 at $65. The stock isn't too far removed from its January 22nd high. But as there is more focus on the airline industry, remember, after 9/11, they had a very tough time trying to get around that. 2008, the airline industry always seems like it's 1 or 2 disasters away from completely imploding on itself, as we see carriers being swallowed up by other carriers. Just recently, you had the JetBlue Spirit Airlines merger that was nixed. So now JetBlue's like, I don't know what to do about it. Or, JetBlue's like, I don't know what to do or how to stay around, because how are we going to keep this up? But the fact of the matter is, this is going to completely impact how people treat flying. And the fact that the stocks are going down, we're seeing this now with Southwest, which Southwest is in a weird position because they only buy from Boeing, and Boeing is phasing out the type of plane they use. It's something about the size of the plane that can accommodate so many people. They're making a smaller version and a larger version of the class of the 737s, I believe it is. So Southwest is like, we either buy smaller planes or we buy bigger planes and we can't fill them. So they're actually in a really nasty spot as far as potentially going bankrupt in the next 10 years. I don't think they are. I think they're going to switch around that. But at least right now, people within Southwest are worried, and we're seeing that reflected in this stock. So let's take a look at this here. Is also garnering attention yesterday after announcing its first mass layoff in company history. First mass layoff in company history, which is a pretty big deal, right? They've been around for a pretty long time. And it's reflective of the fact that they just have not been able to get their stuff together because they haven't adapted. One thing that's actually very interesting post-COVID is everybody thought that the airline industry was going to implode because nobody wanted to travel. Something actually happened where people were demanding more premium seats. People were not as accustomed. They didn't want to pay. I mean, there will always be people who will pay for those, the basic packages, but there are more people that'll pay for like that main cabin or that mid-tier or whatever else those are. And Southwest just doesn't have that. They just have the, hey, buy a ticket, get, cattle herded into the plane and free fall into trying to get a seat. And nobody likes doing that, right? And the problem is Southwest is just as expensive as Delta or American or any of the other airlines. There's not even, it used to be, well, I don't like getting herded into the plane, but I'm saving like $100 on this flight, so I'll do it. Now they're like, it's just as expensive. So what am I doing here? So that's why we're seeing mass layoffs. 1,750 employees will be laid off at Love Field in Dallas. It's 15% of the corporate position. Southwest Airlines stock has pulled back from its early morning surge. Last seen trading near between $30. Off on the charts, shares have been chopping lower since December 5th, 52-week high. Of course, that's always on the back of travel season. So there's this idea that now that they don't have the travel season to fall back on, this is the slowest time of the year. And people are not very happy with them. I know I'm not. Every time I have to fly Southwest, I don't like it. It's annoying. And, I'd rather, do something different than have to deal with them. So there is that. Now, somebody asked, and because I work for you guys, hey, is there any video of that Delta plane crash? Steph, I heard you. And since I work for you guys, let me get you that here if that is available. Here it is. So let's see here. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. I probably can't. But as you can see right about there, plane hits that one wheel and then just kind of lights up and rolls. So it's not really the way it looks. People were wondering, how does a plane roll like that? Well, what happens is when the actual plane lands, comes in a little too hard, pilot makes a miscalculation, wheels go boom, and then all of a sudden it's rolling. So that's the actual video of the landing. Because I work for you, Steph. There you go. That's the video of it. And yeah, there it is. So that's our second story of the day, talking about the airline industry, the continued problems within the airline industry, and the stocks that are reflecting that. If Southwest can't pull out from their current troubles, they're already starting to lay off employees. They may have to start the idea of merging with another carrier. How mean is that? I just worked to get the video, which you won't even pay me. Ridiculous. Typical liberal. But the fact of the matter is, the airline industry is in flux. And it's a matter of planes being too old. It's a matter of people not wanting to pay the premium. It's a fact that the whole flying process is awful with TSA and everything else that happens there. So it's tough. It's a tough thing to look at right now. And yes, TSA with its mating procedures when you go there. Plus, there's the nudie scanner, which nobody likes. Right? There's a whole thing about the nudie scanners that you don't even know about. That's why I always tell them. When they ask me to do the scanner, I always tell them to enjoy the show because that's not for me. This is Rickcast. I'm the aforementioned Rick. I'm so happy that you guys are here with me. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell to help this show grow. My Rumblers, you guys are doing great. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, help the show get out there to more people. people on the X machine retweet it for a bigger sample size. Maybe we can get up to 200 people tonight's show, which would be great and fantastic. And even if it's at 178, I'm very happy to be here. So yeah, I've had internet problems all day. Astound internet is terrible. It's absolutely awful. It's the worst internet out there. People are like, well, get Starlink. Yeah, people would have to start paying me so I can afford to get Starlink until such time as I start making money on stuff like this. Until now, we're working with what we got. But audio seems to be fine. We're doing pretty okay on that. So, all right, let's move on. Third story of the day. It is about Trevor Noah, the least funny immigrant out there, and the fact that he's saying the quiet part out loud.
To America, and then maybe it'll go to other places in a different way because Finland ties in. Do you think that integration was the right move? Like, and now I'm separating two things because I know in America people are like, well, of course, I mean, there was racism and there's segregation, and I go, yeah, no, I'm separating them. Let's separate someone being oppressed and someone not being able to get a job and someone not being able to get a bank loan. Let's take all of those, the negative things away, because I'll put myself out personally and say, I think whether we're talking about gifted kids who are anomalous, let's say, to the norm, whether we are talking about and I mean anything that does not fit into a category, I think the part of the reason Finland is able to do it is because, have you been to Finland?
It's very homogeneous.
I've been to Finland. You know who's in Finland? Finnish people. That's it.
What are you trying to say there, homie? What are you trying to say? And I love it when these libs bring up Finland, Sweden, or Switzerland, or any of these European countries, Denmark, and universal health care and all these great things that happen. What's the through line? What's the through line on those? What is it?
Oh, no.
I don't know what's playing. Hold on. Oh, that's that. Let's get out of that. Sorry, folks, if you were hearing the Delta Airlines. What's the through line on that? What is the through line on all of these other countries? It's just a question. Oh, let me get back into this where he says you can't get a personal loan, or you can't get this, or you can't get that, or what happens? How much money does Trevor Noah have? How much money does Trevor Noah have? And I made this point during Black Lives Matter. Why doesn't Trevor Noah, why doesn't Jay-Z, why doesn't Gilbert Arenas, why doesn't LeBron James, why doesn't any of these athletes, Colin Kaepernick, all of these athletes that have generational wealth, why don't these athletes, and you know what, I can say this about white athletes too, why don't they do it? Go to their hometown, their impoverished hometown, or the places where they grew up, which, by the way, they get the hell out of as soon as they get their first paycheck. Serena Williams, you guys fled Compton to go to Florida as soon as you were able to. Why don't you guys go back to those places, to Compton, to South Central, to Atlanta, to the poor parts of Atlanta, or to Detroit, or any of these other places? And why don't you start a bank? It's not hard. A cap or angel investment service. His net worth is 100 million. And now, does that mean he has 100 million in cash? Probably not. But he could probably get a good angel investment group. And he could probably go back to, well, he can't, because he would go to South Africa and apartheid and all these other kinds of things. And we all heard about how bad it was because it separated blacks and whites. Yet he's talking about that now. Why don't any of these athletes go back to their places where they grew up and start investment firms, or start angel services, or mini banks, or credit unions, or whatever the case may be, and help their community out? Why don't they? If we believe in black excellence, like Noah is telling these two wonderful pencil pusher ladies, if they believe in black excellence, why don't you support black excellence by going to these places and giving your fellow black citizens, not in his case because he's from South Africa, but all these other people, why don't you go back? Spike Lee, you got enough money. Why don't you go back to New York and help out those areas? I know exactly what you're saying, because they want the bureaucracy to do it. They want the government to do it so they can keep their money. They want them to take care of the poor so they can keep their money because they're limousine liberals. But that's my retort. Why don't you do it? You have the money to do it. Go do it. No.
That's it. And because they're all Finnish, there's an idea of like, no, we all head in the same direction. We all know what our actions mean. And that's a really powerful thing I've learned in communicating.
If Trevor Noah was whiter than I am, he would be run off for being a white supremacist.
With other people. When I'm in a room with anyone where we start to tie together multiple things. So if I'm in a room with black people, already there's like an implicit trust because we know what certain actions, words, and vibes mean. And then you're in a room with another African. Already. Now, even if you shout at me, I know what your shout means. The same way an Italian knows what an Italian shout means.
Yeah.
Right? I know I'm prefacing it with a lot because it's a loaded question.
Yes.
No, it's not. No, it's not. The question is this. You want segregation, but you want the government to do it. You want the government to segregate and take care of them. Whatever. I listened to Jason Whitlock this morning and he had, he lived through it. So he has better ideas. I can only give it from a secondhand point of view. And I don't really have the place to question about segregations and all these other kinds of things. And was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Not my place. I'm after that. I can't tell you. What I can say is it is gross and disgusting to hear them, these people who are in these positions of privilege. Trevor Noah is in a position of privilege, being handed the Daily Show job because he's a black guy from South Africa. And so these people being given these positions of privilege, lecturing us about it.
But I would love to know if you think integration was the right solution, maybe.
Now, these queens are going to give you an answer that's just going to blow your mind.
On the other side of America, of civil rights.
Yeah. No, I don't. And I don't think it's actually that controversial when if you understand.
Somebody on Steven Crowder's show, this lady even segregated her books. I didn't make that joke, but it's actually kind of funny. She segregated her books based on color.
That segregation and integration weren't the only options. Like those are within those two options, it may seem like integration is the more progressive. Like, of course, we don't want segregation. But again, when you're being integrated into institutions, into a culture that's a supremacist culture, that's a culture that feeds off of hierarchy, that feeds off of insecurity, anxiety, why are we being integrated into that?
You don't have to stay here. You don't have to stay a part of it. You can easily leave it. You can get out, go somewhere else. And there was an article a couple years ago. There's this group in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta. There's this black association or whatever it is. They're building an entire subdivision and they're only allowing black people in. Do I care? No, I don't care. But the idea is that people who are given opportunities and are given advantages now say, well, we don't really like those advantages because of these made up ideas of patriarchal structure and all these other kinds of things. By the way, we've been living in a matriarchal culture for at least the last 10 years, a matriarchal dominant culture for the last 10 years. But the fact that we are trying to apologize for this and we're trying to say, oh, well, we're sorry that for what? For making sure that you have an opportunity, because we're looking at other places where it is just black cultures. They're not doing great despite the amount of money that's being rewarded on them. And so this constant call about, well, why are we being integrated? You seem to be doing a lot better than I am, ma'am. You seem to be doing a hell of a lot better than I am because you're getting paid pontificate about the evils of white supremacy. Pretty much, I don't know what that show is, but I guarantee a white guy runs it, or a white ownership group runs it, and you're being given that platform to tell everybody how awful they are. Now, there's a lot of white guilt that people deal with, and they apparently feel like they have to apologize for sins of their family that they did not commit. Like I told you, my family did the Chinese 23andMe, and we're all Northerners, man. My family never owned slaves. Okay. My family never owned one slave. And so I don't know what you're talking to me about. Right. My family was Irish. We were pretty much indentured service on one side. So it is what it is in that regard. And it's funny to see these black people in positions of power. This is not black Americans. These are black elites, just like white elites. Elite white women, terrible people. Black elites are just as bad because they want to complain about positions that they're put in or they have achieved through a system that is bent over backwards to ensure that they succeed. And so that's the thing that really gets people. And that's why people voted for Trump, because these ideas, they're like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Patriarchal structures. Lady, you're lecturing me from a position of privilege. So it is what it is. And very funny to see elites, black or white, doesn't matter the skin color, talk down and poo-poo, if you will, the systems that gave them the privilege that they now so enjoy. All right, folks, this is Rickcast. I am the aforementioned Rick. Like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell. This show is not politically correct. The show does not cater to anybody's agenda except my own. And the fact that I have 234 people watching, some of y'all just, something wrong with y'all. Something wrong with all y'all for watching. But I thank every single one of you guys for hanging out with me. I appreciate every single one of you. And if you can help the show grow by retweeting or liking or, leaving a comment or hitting the like button and the subscribe button, all that great stuff will help make this show a voice that needs to be part of this this conversation and talking to these people in a way that they need to be talked to. Am I the person to do it? I don't think so, but hey, God doesn't quantify the doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So I think I just messed that up. Either way, speaking of which, last story of the day. This is going to be a Catholic-centered story, which is why I saved it to the end in case you non-Catholics don't want to be a part of it. Get out of here, lady. Here we go. Last story of the day. The head of the Catholic Church and 1.4 billion Catholics that are a part of that church. This is from the Holy See press office about, 2 hours ago? Oh, no, earlier today. Statement from the Holy See, a follow-up chest CT scan to which the Holy Father was subjected to this afternoon revealed the onset of bilateral pneumonia, requiring additional pharmacological treatment. Nevertheless, Pope Francis remains in good spirits. Now, some people will say that's not great when you have to refer to somebody's spirits and not the prognosis. I am not a doctor, as you can tell. I don't even play one on this show. I just watched Scrubs a lot when I was younger, so that's about the extent of my medical knowledge. And I take a couple first aid courses every now and then. But this whole thing is not great. This is not great. So this is from Catholic, sat on X. Pope Francis had bilateral pneumonia on the background of bronchitis and asthmatic bronchitis. The following is the latest on his condition. Laboratory tests, the chest x-ray, and clinical symptoms of the Holy Father continue to be present in to present a complex picture. A polymicrobial infection, which arose in the context of a bronchitis and asthmatic bronchitis, and which required the use of antibiotic and cortisone treatment, making the therapeutic management more complex. This chest x-ray, which you've talked about. This morning, he received the Eucharist, and during the day, alternated between rest with prayer and reading. He gives thanks for the closeness he feels at this moment. And the big thing with this is that this is not a controversial statement, but this Pope has not exactly been universally loved. You're right. This is the big thing, is that he is 88. This prognosis would be tough for somebody in their 70s, even in their 60s. And the Holy Father has had other medical problems and during his time in the papacy, And first of all, it's a sticks and hammer who I don't mind him. He's not a bad guy. He's got a lot more street cred than I do. But when he injects himself into Catholic Twitter, oh, Pope Benedict resigned for this. Shut up, dude. You don't know why Pope Benedict resigned. It wasn't because of health reasons. There's a whole different thing about why Pope Benedict resigned. Popes don't resign. That's why it was such a big deal when he did it. That's why this Pope won't resign. And the fact of the matter is, I think everybody's kind of reading the writing on the wall. That is, we should be preparing in the next couple weeks for the passing. I don't want this to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a high probability of it happening at this age. Once you get into your 80s, minor things are happening. And so it is what it is. You're right, Crash the Elder. We won't know until it's actually happened. So that's another thing with this. And then we'll have to see a conclave after that and see where the future of the Catholic Church goes. But the fact of the matter is, right now, the purpose of the story is to update people on his condition. And as of right now, there's nothing to do. There's just people saying that the likelihood based on this is not great. I'm just trying to check the latest. There's nothing new here, and it's something that is a big deal. Pope's been around for a while, and he has been very controversial. But I actually tend to think, and I could be completely wrong, you don't have to agree with me, and you could say, Rick, you're an idiot. It wouldn't be the first time somebody said that to me. That I think, despite the fact that Pope Francis has liberal liberation theology tendencies, I don't think he is as radical as the people beneath him within the Vatican. And I think that comes as a shock to a lot of people when I say something like that, because people think he's just this rad. He's just this absolute crazy socialist that wants to reform the church because he's taking away the Latin Mass and he's doing all these other things. Yeah, not great. I get it. But at the same time, I don't think he is the monster that leftists or people on the right side of YouTube have been making for a while. I'm trying to show you this, the makeup. So when the Pope dies, they have to call a conclave, and they will meet and they will vote until they get another Pope. And people are always wondering about the makeup, the modern makeup of said conclave. How is it going to look? Are the bishops liberal? Are the bishops conservative? And I really like this one account that is on X right now called Al Carbaro. And what he is saying is something very interesting. If you're going to talk about a conclave, if you're actually going to talk about one, this is the current makeup of the College of Cardinals. And so this is what it would look like. The talk of a papal conclave in the near future heats up. This gentleman decided to make a diagram of the current ideological makeup of the College of Cardinals. And when people are like, oh, it's super liberal, it's terrible, we're going to get another Francis, it's going to be worse. Guys, this is the makeup of the college right now. Now, does this guarantee like Cardinal Sarah or somebody will be elected? No. But you have your conservatives, you have your moderate conservatives, which is like your Dolans. And then you have your liberals and your moderate liberals and so forth. So people are looking at the future of the Catholic Church and the Cardinals that is happening right now. Where could it potentially go? Well, this is a fairly accurate depiction of what the College of Cardinals would actually look like as far as our understanding, our American understanding of conservative versus liberals. Well, somebody asked him to explain what about the same. What are the standards for a liberal and conservative? So he goes into it a little bit further. Conservative, anybody who holds the teaching of the church. Liberals are those who are likely do not usually gay marriages or priestesses. The 6 straight liberals outright spoke against church teaching. The moderate liberals are those who hinted at it. So then he asks, who's a moderate conservative? Do they disagree with that? What about a Dolan? And he says, I would have Dolan as a moderate conservative. The hardline conservatives, the red ones, are those either extremely socially conservative, extremely liturgically conservative, or both. So he actually has a pretty decent breakdown on how this makeup comes out. And it's really sad to actually talk about something like this because we don't want to worry about it. And MD on MDD 229 on Rumble has a very good point that the deep church that Francis has been dealing with and the deep church that got rid of Pope Benedict is worse than Francis. And that's the thing that I think has been a battle for Francis more than anything else, is trying to negotiate the infiltration of communists and liberal ideology. As you know, I ragged on Dr. Taylor Marshall before, but he got it right with the book Infiltration. He got it absolutely 100% correct with the book Infiltration. And that has to be something that is looked into. So as of right now, I'm checking to see the latest on Pope Francis. Nothing more than what's been said. And as Crotchety Elder alluded to before, we're not going to hear anything completely, anything definitive is the word I want to use, until Pope Francis is either released from the hospital or Pope Francis goes to meet or goes home. So that's what's the latest right now. Let's see. I'm going to just do one more check of the latest. Doesn't really look like it. Just more of the double pneumonia the Vatican has said about that. Yeah. So he has double pneumonia. He is resting, and the treatment for him is going to be difficult going forward. So for my fellow Catholics out there, especially the ones, and I'm not trying to be a jerk when I say this, but some of you guys have made a really good living off of bashing Pope Francis. Every time he said something, you would run to YouTube and you would say, "Oh, the Holy Father's bad. He's this, he's that, he's the other." Bah, 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 bah. I would hope, and this would be my call to you guys, the ones that have been harsh on him. Has he deserved it? Probably. To especially pray for the Holy Father right now, that he is in a state of grace, that he returns back to our Lord in a state of grace, because he's going to have to answer too for when he goes to the 4 final things, whether it's now, whether it's in a year, 2 years, whatever the case may be, just like us all. So that's the case with the Holy Father right now. Not doing well at all. All right, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this episode of Rickcast. Once again, do me a favor, like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell to help this show grow. My Rumblers, hit that like button. Leave me a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what you agreed with, what you disagreed with. YouTuber, you guys are doing great in your chat. You guys are making sure that there's a lot of conversations going on there. My people on X, retweet for a larger sample size as well. And once again, thank you for hanging out with me here on Rickcast. I'm Rick. To my bar rats, you all have a great night. And until that day comes, free Dexter Taylor.